Virginie Amélie Avegno-Gautreau was the most notorious beauty in Paris. Like Sargent, she was an American from Louisiana. Her family were slave-owning plantation types who'd settled in Paris after the Civil War, which they didn't like losing. Amélie found herself a middle-aged French banker who'd made his money in bat guano, Monsieur Pierre Gautreau, and she set about acquiring for herself a very modern type of notoriety. She was an it girl before there were it girls, famous for being famous. They said she had many lovers, and she definitely looked different from the rest, with her ultra-clean lines and that fantastic figure, which she didn't mind showing off in scandalous dresses that left lots of Amélie sticking out of them. I bought this on eBay. It's quite hard to find these days. Rice powder. Amélie used to coat herself with this stuff to make herself look more interesting and extra pale. When she went swimming, it all washed off, and crowds would gather on the beach to see what her real colour was. Her bodyguard, this huge mulatto she'd imported from Louisiana, would wrap her in a giant towel, carry her across the beach back to her dressing room. So she was an early celeb, and Sargent knew that if he painted her, some of her notoriety would get him noticed too. The picture took ages. Amélie was unreliable, willful and lazy. But eventually, Sargent finished it and entered it for the Salon of 1884, where the fuss exploded immediately. She wasn't named in his title, but everybody knew who this Madame X was. The crowd turned up to giggle. She's as white as a corpse, they laughed. And as for that dress, she might as well have turned up naked. What was the fuss about? I've lined up a comparison, which I think makes it clearer. On the left, the sort of dress respectable women wore in Paris at the time, as painted by Bonnat, who briefly taught Sargent. On the right, Madame X, as she came to be called, in her little black number. As you can see, Bonnat's dress covers stuff up. It's frilly, busy, and doesn't show much. But Madame X, oh, she shows stuff all right. What lovely shoulders, what a fabulous shape. The way her hair's pulled back, that hourglass outline, that profile. It's as if Sargent stripped away the extras and got down to the real woman. Poor old Sargent. As the fuss exploded around him, he skulked about the salon, pretending he wasn't there. Amélie's mother turned up at the studio and begged him to remove the painting. "You've ruined my daughter's reputation," she screamed. At some point, as a token gesture of respectability, and a rather cowardly act, I think, Sargent repainted her diamond-encrusted shoulder strap so that the dress didn't look as if it were falling off quite so enticingly. You can see here where the shoulder strap used to go. Underlying the reaction to Madame X was some good old-fashioned French jingoism. Amélie's real crime wasn't the dress or the makeup, but being an American, as of course was Sargent. You know how the French are about Americans. Anyway, Sargent felt unwanted. The commissions dried up in Paris, so he moved to London. Thus, it's to Madame X and that dress that we owe the arrival in British art of John Singer Sargent.